Good afternoon, everyone. It's really the last lightning talk this year. Last before Christmas and last this year, we have a great guest, Ashish, who will be talking about the security-driven business transformations. Ashish, welcome and many thanks for joining this last lightning talk. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting topic and presentation. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir, for that introduction, and it's a privilege to be closing the year, with my lightning talk. So, I'm Ashish Shrestha. So I used to be director of InfoSec for Clear Channel. I'm just taking a short career break at the moment. So today I'm going to be talking about giving my thoughts, really, rather than talking, giving my thoughts on, empowering security-driven business transformation. What do I mean by that? Basically, is how security-driven automation at people, process, and technology levels can help deliver value beyond, technology and compliance commodity services, right? So it's more, the objective here is not be driven by compliance and technology gap assessment, but, look at delivering tech stack maturity, security maturity, compliance as a byproduct of information security strategy rather than being governed by it, right? And then I'll also talk a little bit about, with the paradigm shift in the consumerization world, how security can be become a unique selling proposition for the product and services, right? And yeah, I'll kind of walk you through my thoughts. So I'll share my presentation. I think you can already see my presentation. Vladimir, can you confirm, please?
Yes.
Okay. So I've just put a very high level PowerPoint, right? I will be talking into at a kind of a bird's eye view level details. If you want to go into deep dive into any of the topics, any of the examples that I give, which I have delivered or which I have implemented, then please feel free to contact me after the session. I really want to also respect the time that we have here. So without further ado, let me crack on with the presentation. So I've kind of walked you through this already. Who am I? So by security by definition is more than just a vision. Like to protect business. It's beyond protection. For me, it's a mission beyond adversaries. It's not just protecting against adversaries, but again, as I mentioned, my personal goal is how can information security now, break out of that bubble of being seen as a malware protection or incident management team in helping achieving competitive advantage as well. Right. I just wanted to kind of share this thought in, resistance is futile. It's from the Borg in Star Trek, if you watched Star Trek. And this is very much true in current context for information security as well, right? With the cloud first strategy, businesses are swiftly, even the businesses who were shy of moving to cloud are swiftly moving to cloud environment. And the recent pandemic has only acted as a catalyst to accelerate that transformation as well, right? The change is inevitable, so we need to change our strategy as well from information security perspective. So the hypothesis is, on the left-hand side of my circle is we've always been preaching information security is mandatory. We enable the business by protecting the business and brand. For me, that is a like for me that's kind of old school. That's legacy. When I went to this sorry about the typo, enable there. I went to this event earlier this year, and there was a seasonal CISO, and I really liked what he said. He mentioned about as soon as you're entering a room and you're saying, we are here, we are a security team, we are here to be business enabler, you're already presenting yourself as you're currently not a business enabler, right? And that kind of grasped my attention. So I've kind of, like that, hooked that into my vision as well. So, information security is you should already be a business enabler. Now you should think beyond that. Information security is not mandatory. In fact, I'm going counterintuitive. Information security is optional. You know, our job as an information security professionals is to empower the business, to become dynamic, compelling, and authentic in that sense. Empowering with the right information so that the right decision in terms of strategy, in terms of investment, in terms of operational direction can be taken, right? And this leads to the question. It's like when you say, oh, we are a business enabler, quantify enable to me. What are you talking about? 58%, 20%, 10%, 9%? It's difficult to quantify enable. What do you mean by enable business, right? So our approach must change. We as information security now has to be business and a brand champion, not an enabler. The fact that's, I was recruited by the business, I was brought on board by a business as an information security lead. They wanted me to act as a business enabler. There's no argument on that. Right now, my job is, how do I create a strategy? How do I bring in a vision? How do I then distill that into a strategy and a program blueprint to become a business and a brand champion, right? So we talked about digital transformation, right? There's quite a lot of businesses are going through digital transformation. And when it comes to digital transformation, no, it's not technology transformation. Technology is just one attribute of digital transformation, right? So digital transformation, if I have to break it down in, like my simple kind of understanding, it's all about speed. It's all about flexibility. It's all about efficiency, right? How can you, operationalize commodity services so that you can enable that speed to the market? It's about how can you help strengthen, revenue generation, whether it be e-commerce, whether it be, other channels as well. And then it's always about engaging with your customers, putting your customer first approach, both internal and external customers. Your internal customers should have efficient, technologies, for example, in place, processes in place, so that they can enable that speed to the market to then, strengthen that revenue generation. So that is kind of like my simple kind of translation of digital transformation, right? So in terms of looking at the history of traditional thinking, when it comes to information security, we've always kind of, floated in these lanes, right? Oh, you guys are about computer security. It started with, that you guys are about computer security. Then, the whole from the era of Nigerian prince, this spam protection. It's about spam protection. Then about, oh, incident management in the current context. When there's a virus outbreak, you guys come in. Then you're seen as an incident management team. Then the other side of the spectrum is, oh, security is expensive, time consuming and slow. It chews up resource bandwidth. So this is where these are the lanes that we've been trading on at a very high level, right? I mean, there are all the other stuff that we do. Security by its nature is holistic, in terms of how we can add value to the business. It's not just, it cannot be discussed within the vacuum of technology, security, maturity, and compliance due diligence, right? So that's the status quo profile that I've just discussed. Don't they prevent us from cyber attack? Oh, sometimes there's also like, I don't exactly know what you guys do. You guys talk cryptic language, which goes over my head. Oh, you guys are a malware protection team, etc. So we need to change that. We need to change that status quo in the business. So that is where we come in. Think beyond technology and compliance, right? And I'm not saying that in a negative way or a belittling way per se. Technology. What we do, technology is at heart of it. Compliance is at heart of it. But we need to start delivering that as a byproduct. We need to make security a worthwhile investment outside of compliance regime, outside of just being seen and the pigeonhole, of password management, vulnerability management, and then therefore incident management as well, right? So if you look at the InfoSec triad, the CIA triad, there are two layers that needs to be added. If you are still swimming in those lanes of confidentiality, integrity, availability, you're behind the curve. You're like you're playing catch up. What we now need to add is two layers in there, which is usability, about adding, making it lean, making it agile, making it simple, user friendly, bringing in that user experience, and then being creative and compelling. You don't have to be rigid. You can bring in novel ideas and make it compelling. And that's where it goes back to my earlier point about hypothesis, is where I'm going counterintuitive. Information security is optional. My job is to empower the business leadership team, whether it be at a board level or lines of business, by providing accurate information on the business risk. And I come in as a subject matter expert, where I help also then not just cry wolf, but help to mitigate that risk, to now enable whatever that idea is, whatever that discussion is on the table, whether it be from a service, product perspective, or a whole new innovation within the business, right? So those two layers, adding usability and creative and compelling nature of information security, is quite key in this CIA triad. So empowering business digital workspace in the current context, right, with the pandemic, where most of the businesses are still operating remotely, right? Empowering business digital workspace is one area where security can have a huge transformational impact, right? And to kind of, again, feed into that speed, flexibility, and drive that efficiency within the business, right? So how can security start driving that digital transformation, being rather than being an afterthought, being that almost in parity or with the driver's seat in driving that digital transformation in the right trajectory, right? It's about, and sorry about that icon again. It's about, first thing first is as simple as you need to drop this perimeter centric security approach. That's a legacy. If you're still adopting that, then you are at least 7 to 10 years behind the curve, to be perfectly honest, right? So that creating bigger gates, taller, creating a moat around your castle, and building thicker walls. Yeah, that's legacy. That's like a legacy way of doing security with the cloud, everything as a service. You need to start embracing the future of digital workplace, right? And start providing security as a service. And what do I mean by that? I'll come into a little bit detail about that. But we security needs to start promoting ourselves as something that is not just contextual anymore, but consumable as well, in a relatively lean and agile manner, right? So I advocate using cloud for lean security, right? So how will that help? Is security is often considered a burden rather than an enabler for businesses, to be blunt with you, right? Like it or not, all of us in the defensive world, in one way or another, have had to kind of go through that friction, right? What lean security does is it recognizes that you don't have that unlimited budget, right? You don't have that unlimited resource, time to manage the security program within the business, because the holistic nature of security means you can't bring the ocean to boil in one go. So adopting that lean security approach and using cloud as a catalyst is where it helps you align and integrate resources to achieve that security in a much more appropriate way, doing the right things. It's not just about creating a vision, creating a strategy on the back of your vision and creating a blueprint. It's also about doing right things in a right order as well. That's what security is about. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But it's where, when security drops the silo approaches in plethora of work that we do, from spam protection to cyber business breaking, cyber crisis management, it will lead to streamlining processes within the business, right? Removing bottleneck and inefficiencies, enabling interconnectedness with all areas of businesses, not just your business partners like legal, compliance, procurement, and technology, but also your product owners, your trade teams, your research and development team within the business. Prevent that resource burn down within your own team and your business stakeholders team as well. Software development lifecycle is a prime example of this. And then yes, it is true that CISOs, head of infosec now have got slightly better budget to invest than a couple of years back. But again, you need to make that economy scale, right? So that's where dropping, using cloud for lean security operations will lead to effective investment. In terms of, and apologies, this slide is a little bit text heavy. This is the only slide that I've got a little bit text heavy. So as I mentioned earlier, it's the as the businesses are swiftly approaching that, adopting cloud as a cloud as a first strategy, right? So the nemesis of effective security in cloud strategy is important. Cloud is here to stay. It is here to stay. It is actually enable, and we need to enable security, like the mindset that we already have, that we as a security professionals, we should be agnostic to technologies, right? So cloud is no different to that. So it is, and we need to enable security within any given environment. So the key thing, like the metaphor that I'd like to use is bad security, like practice is like a flat tire. You can't really go anywhere unless you change it. So if you're still kind of seeing that within, seeing cloud as more like your adversary and, thinking, no, if it is within my perimeters, if it's within my thick walls, within the moat around my castle, then it's better. It's, I can prevent that. Then that's really only going to backfire on you. That paradigm shift in adopting cloud technology, it has to happen in security domain as well. And put the focus on the opportunity features that you can benefit from the cloud technology. One of the examples that I always like to use is, one of the tussle between security and technology operations or service operations team has always been our favorite topic, right? Patch management. Now, there is no silver bullet when it comes to patch management. Every organization does it differently. So I'm not here to kind of preach, like I've got the unicorn around patch management. But, how does cloud help alleviate this issue, right? So, IT has always been, and we have to kind of give that respect to our IT leadership and IT colleagues as well, where they're almost living on a double-edged sword, right? So they have to keep the business running 24/7 in the in the current context, unless you're an institution who can take downtime over the weekend, right? No downtime whatsoever, and then they are flooded with back-to-back kind of new developments requests, whether it be migrating to, I don't know, Office 365 or migrating to advanced threat protection in Azure, etc. Whatever it is, they're kind of always flooded with the new developments back to back, and security is one of them requesting that kind of changes, right? So where cloud helps is the outcome is, when we start adopting cloud, software as a service, platform as a service, even to a degree, infrastructure as a service, that helps alleviate the situation where they don't necessarily now need to worry about monitoring configurations, latest up, depending on what setup you are going for, right? Your responsibility in that, as service, cloud as service stack varies. But patch management all of a sudden can be, does not necessarily have to be the pain in the back process, and this is one of the benefits of the cloud services. Now, the big question you must be wondering is, okay, there's so much we need to do in security. Where do we start? What's your recommendation? Where do we start? So I'd say two things. Look at the two pillars in your environment, right? And this is not an and or. So look at, sorry, this is not or, this is more an and equation. What is the biggest challenge in your environment, and what's the biggest advancement in your security strategy? So now, if you look into these two streams, in your strategy, then you'll immediately get, like, where you can make a start, in adopting lean security practices powered by cloud services out there, right? And couple that with the magnitude of business risk and the likelihood of a successful attack, you can now make your, not just, prove the value add proactively, like, which is another problem, because if the business, you know if you are one of the businesses that haven't suffered a cyber attack, then it becomes it becomes difficult to prove your value add to the business, because business are so focused in seeing you as a like someone who comes and controls virus outbreaks, that they only see you're the important person when there's a cyber attack going on. But if, as and when there's no cyber attack, there are product owners, there are business leaders who don't necessarily fully understand the value of that information security delivers within the business, right? There are a couple of examples I can give, and obviously, conscious of time, like I said earlier, I want to give some I want to give a very holistic view on some of the areas where you can adopt you know uh, security lean services. What do I mean by that? Is operationalizing everything, not just security in DevOps, but start shifting left in everything we do, not just software development life cycle. Actually embrace that successful adaptation of security in DevOps pipeline, in like shifting left in everything, operationalizing everything, bringing that smarter automation, right? And smarter automation does not necessarily mean like replacing it with all the marketing buzzwords like AI, ML, and all that, machine taking the job. It's about like taking a balanced approach. It's not a the reason I took smarter automation is about balancing the equation, right? That element of higher level analysis is always going to be there, but equally I am aware of the fact that automation is essential in this lean cloud security, because adversaries are starting to use automation. So if you are not using automation, then you will not even be able to play catch up, right? But then what you need to do as a part of balancing that equation is, what do you offload to automation, what do you keep as a human intervention, right? Because there's no denial in the fact that human are better in doing that rational analysis of a situation and taking a risk-based decision, right? So that's what I mean by smarter automation, right? Operates and then that gives adopting smarter automation will give you ability to operate with greater speed and agility as well. You can not just in software development lifecycle pipeline, but you can automate threat monitoring. You can automate response management as well, elements of response management as well, right? In order to remove inefficiencies and bottlenecks. So I'll briefly go into some of the examples. So in the assurance world, like from a governance, risk, and compliance management, the two key areas you can bring automation or semi-automation are vendor risk management and security awareness. Businesses rely on trading partners. Businesses rely on strategic partners to provide, the relevant product and services to their consumers or their clients, right? So there is going to be quite a lot of partnerships that you'll have to rely on. Now, there's always been the notion where security will send a massive spreadsheet, you go through it, and then it just does not create an overhead on the supplier side. But when the answer comes back, it equally clogs up your resources as well. So the vendor risk management is one area where you can use semi automation, smarter automation. So like offload the mundane tasks, doing the basics, checks, before almost acting as your frontline gateway in terms of doing some basic checks before it is flagged up to a security analyst or a security manager, right? It could be like asking basic questions around threat management, and you could build use cases, right? You could build some of the expressions around, okay, um, you know, based on how they are responding to, let's say, the intrusion detection, you can then build cursors as to alert whoever is responsible for managing vendor risk within your team. Security awareness is another thing. We need to give up that classroom-led security awareness training, right? And this is where we can bring in automated way of doing phishing simulation test, for example, like phishing simulation attack on your colleagues, and not just that, but ability to then point them to right direction then and there. Say if you've done a Microsoft 365 credential stealing phishing attack, then when they click on that link, redirect them to your landing page. I don't know, your landing page, like giving them insight straight away, immediate knowledge transfer. You don't have to wait for your team to churn that results and then go back after 2 weeks or 3 weeks when the results is already stale, saying, hey, you in marketing so and so, or finance so and so, you clicked on this email. By the time he or she has already forgotten about it, and there's no value add, right? The other areas are when it comes to secure by design is identification, where you can bring where you can adopt automation and operationalize security with all the um, solutions and approaches out there. So in terms of, quite a lot of businesses grapple with identity and access management, right? There are still businesses who manage, the basic joiner, mover, lever process in a spreadsheet. And when I say identification, I'm not just saying from a access perspective. It's also about identifying, like what applications can run in your environment, who can connect to your environment, third party, who can connect to your environment. So it's at a people, process, and technology level, right? So you can bring in automation in that using cloud services, depending on what you're using. For example, we can just take joiners, movers, levers process, where you can establish a process by operationalizing the whole access administration, identity and access administration process, which, to be honest, is a huge overhead in our service operations team, right? In any business verticals we work, like there are plethora of applications, business services out there, and when Ash joins, Ash leaves, a poor service desk analyst or whoever it is within an organization is going through a massive spreadsheet and going, okay, Ash has got access to Salesforce, Ash has got access to this, and there's a room for human error. So now this is where you can bring in both, that user experience, and you can also bring in security and compliance by design, right? So where you can bring in an identity and access management process, whereby you can plug it into your to your source of that identity for your people, which could be your HRIS system. Use the power of the workflows, automated workflows, then to update your Active Directory automatically, right? Enable single sign-ons, so that you are also addressing the problem of the user has, which is around password management, right? And then also adopting a robust identity and access management with automated workflow will also means you can give self-service password reset in current context, which is quite important, right? Because people are still working from home, so you have to be able to give people opportunity to be to easily reset their password without having to connect to VPN and contact service, your service operations team, etc. Right? And the same goes with accessing applications as well. You can use CASB solutions to enable access to different applications, to bring in data sources from these different applications being used in the business, so that you can provide better cyber resilience within an organization. And the byproduct of that is you can start putting that governing layer around shadow IT. Again, I am one of the person who will say shadow IT is not necessarily bad, right? As long as you can start putting a layer of security around it, shadow IT, you can actually start, seeing benefit of shadow IT. And this is where identity and access management being one of the fundamental rudimentary controls that you can bring in to, give it back to the business, saying, hey, we have got, this is our identity and access management process. If you're bringing in, I don't know, Dropbox to start sharing files with your external agencies, then plug it in to our identity and access management solution using SAML, or if you want to go more down the auth route, go down that route, right? So all of a sudden, you have got that control over, from a shadow IT perspective. Cyber hygiene, patch management. Patch management for me is, again, it's like chasing smoke, right? So how can you help alleviate the situation? So if you're, again, putting your cyber readiness and resilience, if you're putting all eggs in the basket when it comes to cyber readiness and resilience in patch management, then there will be an event when you and your security operations team are playing that cat and mouse games, hence my icon, right? Cat and mouse games about, oh, like security didn't inform us in timely manner, or there's this like a big vulnerability report that's been dropped on my table, I don't know which one to patch. There is no context around which one is of a greatest genuine threat. So you'll find yourself in that position where it's like a cat and mouse game, right? But I, as a info security leader in a business, I don't want like patch management to be governing my security, cyber operations readiness and resilience. If we do come under cyber scrutiny, a business breaking cyber scrutiny, then I need to be in a position where I can take control of it, right? At least, and begin with containment, and then we can think about remediation later, right? So this is where, again, you can take a balanced approach of how you can alleviate this historic problem around patch management. There are tons of technologies out there, like whether you're using ATP from Microsoft, with augmented by Sentinel, or you're using another EDR solutions. There are tons of technologies out there that you can utilize to now alleviate the situation. And threat management, again, if you're still relying on the signature based controls to protect your business, if you're still only relying on indicators of compromise, the data feeds that you're getting without any context that you can't even consume, then you will struggle. There are services out there, open source services out there, paid for services out there, that you can use to now complement your cybersecurity operations function, to be more proactive, to be more to take a bit more bodyguard approach rather than just being a gatekeeper, and proactively start adopting threat hunting. It's not just about IOCs. You need to also take into account, yes, IOCs are important, but you need to also be able to pivot the indicators of attack within your organization, right? Use that into information, not just focus on the internal data, but use external intelligence to now power that, make it consumable, make it contextual, and make a risk-based decision, right? So this is where, these are some of the areas where you can start operationalizing security, adopting smarter automation, and also in a response playbook perspective. If you've got indicators of attack, and you've got threat intelligence, and that's kind of your threat intelligence is already augmenting the fact that you're coming under a ransomware attack. Why do you need your security engineer to come online 2 o'clock in the morning to then disconnect that from the network? By the time your entire network or half your network might be encrypted already. Why this is where you can use power of automation to say, okay, again, build use cases saying, if so and so happens, then automatically kill that process. And there are technologies out there that will actually help you go very micro niche in the processes as well, without impacting the bigger operation that it is. You can isolate endpoints from the network automatically. So that's what I mean earlier by contain first, then remediation later, right? In terms of security, trends in security. So, one of the things is, you'll always see there are three lines, right? There's a cost line, there's a risk line, there's a maturity line. So when you are starting from that position, in that maturity index, when you're starting from a position where you're premature or there's an absent control, then you'll see that increase in cost, right? There's going to be a big surge in cost. But as you start to go higher in your maturity level, you'll start to see the other two lines, like the cost starts to come down, and your maturity starts to go up, right? Your risk starts to come down as well. So this is, you need to, hence my point earlier about look at, what is the biggest challenge within your environment, and what is going to be of the biggest, uh, you know, strategic advancement in security, right? Adopt that with the magnitude of business risk that you face within your industry stream, and then the take into account the current likelihood of successful attack, not based on the national vulnerability database score, but actually using threat intelligence to then power that, to then create an economies of scale, right? So quickly, so how can you become a business champion, right? Lean. You have to be a lean and agile security function. What do I mean by that? Is it's not just about being automating the process. You need to being lean means you need to say, okay, I've got this. I've got the plethora, like the plethora of problems that I need to look at. Which of one is the greatest risk for me, and focusing on that. It's about and in a technology world, most of us in security do come from technology background or risk management background, right? We know we have kind of been playing in that tech debt management kind of bubble, right? So you need to adopt the same mindset. It's about cyber debt management, right? Which one do you address first? You can't bring the ocean to a boil. So look at how effective, not just how effective investment you can make, but where is where is the area that you can have a biggest return on investment, right? So my 5 triggers to be lean and agile security function is, when creating a frictionless security management, educate your cyber team, right? It's not just about educating your business anymore. It's not just about business being security champion. It's about security being business champion. Educate them on agile principles, smarter way of cyber debt management. You can't fix everything in one sprint. You have to make a call based on which issue we'd like to fix on this sprint, right? Remove unnecessary sophistication in the process. Empower, allow self-services. I give you an example of identity and access management, how identity and access management can be self-service. Why do product development team or other product owners who are looking to bring in a SaaS have to come to security all the time to plug into, okay, how do I manage access in here? Advertise that as a service, identity and access management as a service, so they can just come in. These are our standards, SAML, auth, and you can just plug in. Get those instructions in a consumable manner out there. Embrace smarter automation over blanket automation. There are 3,000 technologies out there that are using all these buzzwords, right? But be conscious about the smarter automation. Be conscious about how you can operationalize, how to better operationalize some of these processes, be it from a vendor risk management to incident response management, and then enable speed to that market, right? So that's what I mean earlier by not just operationalizing vulnerability management in your CI/CD pipeline, but it's also about everything else. Identity and access management. It's about patch management. It's about so that you enable that market, speed to that market. Now, briefly, it's about now going into how to become a brand champion. With the explosion of internet-based services, everything is coming as a service, right? With the explosion of internet, we've seen the early adopters where we had connected devices, to internet. Then we saw the early majority, middle majority, where there was, the our data started to slowly move towards the cloud, payments, online payments, social network. Now we're seeing that paradigm shift in terms of, other consumable sphere, right? Like from a, smart home to even online learning nowadays, right? Smart, self-driving cars. So with this in mind, see, this is an era of security and privacy, right? The information is everywhere. The speed and the diversity of the information that is being consumed by the services, internet enabled services, everything as a service. You've got a doorbell as a service nowadays. Data has become a most valuable asset in the world, right? Data breaches are outranking some of the global disasters, right? So this is where actually security can now act as a unique selling proposition for whatever you're offering to your client or consumers, right? So with the shift in this paradigm in consumerization, the game has shifted too. It's no longer about information security. It's no longer just about espionage, cyber espionage or a cyber attack. It's more about, it has an impact on human psychology. It has an impact on people's well-being, depending on what data is compromised. It's not just about, oh, I've lost money from my credit card, I'm going to file a complaint with my bank, which they will refund. People have had some irreversible damage, on the back of a data breach, right? So this is an opportunity to establish yourself as where information security can help brand to be established as a trusted provider as well. So when it comes to thinking, think unique selling proposition, yes, focus on advancement and maturity uplift, but at the same time, like work with your product research and development team, work with your commercial teams in terms of understanding what goals, what is their next quarterly, 6 monthly goals, what is in the pipeline from a development perspective. Work with collaborate with your product owners, right? And it's not just a collaboration with tech and compliance. It's now you have to go beyond. As an infosec leader, you have to go beyond technology and compliance, collaborate and create with the team outside of technology deliverables, right? And understand how can you help support that acquisition and retention. And that's how you can contribute towards economic growth. One of the examples I'll give you is, for example, in one of my previous job, being able to play the campaign, it was one of the utmost important KPI for our for winning our business, right? How am I now able to kind of make strengthen that site reliability, campaign reliability? If you need to go and talk in that language, what would be of interest to that team, and that's how you can help, right? So,
Ashish, I have to step in. We've got a couple of questions, and fortunately, we are running out of time. We've got a great question from Paul Simmons. If we go back into the managing identities, how should businesses sort out and work with managing of the identities and access, most importantly, for people who they don't manage or they don't deploy, which obviously is in the digital transformation, as that is happening, is one of the key factors. It's basically going out into so-called extended enterprise. So that's one question from Paul, and I have another one, but I'll keep it
sure.
Keep it for later.
Sure. So in that situation, right, this is where you can start using API manage, manage that third party access or even fourth party access via API management, right? From giving them an ability to create a connectivity via an auth, using an auth protocol, right? In not just from an integration to your Active Directory, and which is what I meant earlier by also now broadcasting. Okay, if there is a third-party services that you are bringing where there's a shared responsibility where, in I don't know, a third party might be managing your content management system, then this is how you will be accessing our platform, right, via an API access management. Now, I can go into details of that offline, Paul, if you and I connect. And yeah, so that's how you can manage a third party or fourth party.
Great, great. And if I may have some one closing question before we close it for
Sure.
this year. At the beginning, you explained security needs to be kind of not just enabler but also champion.
Yeah.
If I put it on its head and ask what a business leader such as CEO or CFO or operations director, what they should be looking for as a capabilities and attributes of a great CISO.
Being able to translate some of these technical risk into in a business language is important, right? So I think there's this preconceived notion that, oh, my executive team does not understand security, they don't understand, like I think that's belittling of us security professionals to think that way. you know these are the board understands risk. Now, you need to be able to articulate that technology. Let's say a vulnerability that is becoming quite imminent, because like we haven't patched or we're not able to patch. Now, you should be able to, if you go with that mindset, oh, we can't patch this, you'll lose your CEO in 30 seconds in that, right? You should be able to translate that into a business risk terminology, in terms of we have like in terms of, if we don't do this, like if we don't invest, for example, X to mitigate the risk, and being able to articulate that as an impact to your business operations or service or consumers, right? Then the impact will be Y. So you need to be able to talk in this language. Otherwise, if you're just going saying, hey, I need a CASB solution because I want to protect data loss prevention, yes, you've lost your CEO, you've lost your executive leadership team there.
Okay, perfect.
So it needs to be more value add talk, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was really exciting, talk, and I'm sure people will will post additional questions on YouTube because this is recorded, of course. If they wanted to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Handlers there, email or even phone, right? So I'm more than happy to collaborate, provide any help I can. I'll more than happily volunteer, in the defensive side, like the offensive side, are collaborating. So I'm more than happy to share my blueprints, how I did it, my concepts, etc. as well. Okay,
Right.
so that's really it. So I'd like to leave with a thoughts. So be conscious, be creative, be compelling in terms of supporting not just business stability and growth, but that brand strength and positivity. And one last thought is, I was talking to one of the security and I won't name it because I shouldn't be doing that. And it's like how that solution can help protect consumers, your consumer, informing them let's say you're providing, can like it has been compromised and is being exploited. Genuine interest outside of just your towards your consumer can actually have a positive and strong impact in driving loyalty and longevity with your consumer base. And that's how, one of the simplest example of how you can be a brand champion, right? That was just, I just wanted to say that becoming a brand champion does not mean you have to go through all the next generation AI stuff and all that. So thank you very much, and Vladimir, thank you again for this opportunity. And yeah,
Thank you, Ashish, and Merry Christmas, of course.
Merry Christmas to
as
all.
much as
Take care.
possible. Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.